Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. For anyone who was super organized and printed out their program more than a week ago, I'm supposed to be Ed Mayhew, but I'm not, obviously. I've been asked to give this presentation at the last minute, which is kind of a caveat for I finished writing this at midnight. But I'm really glad to be able to finally be able to share the work that we've been doing at Sandwich with the wider NAS population. I know that several of you in the audience already know about it, and you get bonus points if you can spot yourself in the photo. So there's already people in NAS who know about this project, but there's lots of you who don't. So you will in the next 25 minutes. And hopefully some of you might even become involved in the future. So as Anne said, I'm the education manager here, and I've been running the project at Sandwich since 2018. We've been working with beach walkers and residents, NAS members and local stakeholders in a citizen science project at Sandwich, and that's on the coastal heritage. We've been using hands-on and high-tech methods, and the mission has been to record the extraordinary heritage that's on this 5-mile beach, and that's before it gets lost to the sea. The talk will outline what we've done so far, the people that we've been involved with that have worked on the project, and the plans that we have for the not too distant future, because they're quite exciting. So let's start by setting the scene. This is a typical view of how I see Sandwich Bay, Sandwich Flats in Kent. It's really gorgeous, isn't it? Don't think about the fact that it's dawn and it's probably February, but you may know that the best time to do intertidal field work is at low tide. It gives you the best chance of finding the most amazing things that are exposed and also the most amount of time to actually do something about it. So by some quirk of the universe, it's always the best time to work in Sandwich at dawn in February or March, which is great for sunrises like this, but it's not very reliable. So it might not look like this. It might be quite chilly. But we've been lucky so far. And also we've been really lucky to have a group of volunteers that are really enthusiastic to solve the mysteries of this beach. And they're prepared to rug up and just get on with it. So that's really great. Just to continue setting the scene so we know where we're talking about, because I do know we have some international people here, which is fantastic. This is where Sandwich Bay is located on the east coast of Kent. And if we weren't being really diligent archaeologists with our eyes fixed on the ground to look for the heritage, we could see France on a clear day. Obviously, it's not always a clear day, but we could if it was lovely dawn. So you can see that it's a lovely 5-mile stretch of beach. It pretty much goes north and south. And from the image on the right, you can see that it's got quite a large intertidal range, which is fabulous for us. And it's really good for working on the intertidal site there. So as I said, since 2018, the Nautical Archaeology Society has been using this beach for running our training courses. I kind of nicked it from one of our colleagues. So MSDS is here. The particular colleague, Sally, is not here, but Sally invited me to come and help her. And I kind of took over that. MSDS worked on it with us for a while, but now we work on it as NAS. It's an incredibly accessible site with minimal health and safety risks. And it's got really cheap and convenient bases of operation, so we can do our paperwork afterwards. And there's accommodation too. And it's just really convenient, which is why we keep on going back, as well as having the most amazing heritage. We tend to focus on the low-tech methods of recording and investigating the archaeological sites to make it cheap and accessible as possible. And that includes our tape measure survey, photography, and archaeological record keeping. And you can see us doing that there. And we also, when the occasion arises, we use the high-tech methods. And we can do drones and total stations, DGPS, and we rely on our very generous friends and partners to bring that equipment along with them. So thank you very much to anyone who's ever brought along their equipment to help us out. So far, the work at Sandwich has been quite organic. It's been a user pay system, very reactionary. We kind of get notes on Facebook saying there's really low tides, there's something being exposed, and we can go and react to that. But we have plans to do things a little bit more planned, and we'll talk about that in the not too distant future. So what have we found so far? You know what the beach looks like, but what's the heritage that's actually there? It falls neatly into 4 categories. We've got shipwrecks. So we've got 11 wooden wrecks, and they're the most obvious thing that you can see on the beach. They're stable, they don't move anywhere, thankfully, and you would think that they're always visible, but as we've discovered recently, that's not always the case. You can sometimes find them there, and sometimes the sand levels change and they're even more exposed, like you can see here, and sometimes they're entirely missing, which is a bit alarming. Next, we have another permanent and usually visible site. It's a World War II plane. It's a B-17 bomber and it ditched in the Second World War, and thankfully no one died when it crashed. It was on its way to RAF Manston, which is now a museum, and gradually as bits fall off the plane, it's being taken to the museum. So it's going to eventually make its final destination there, one way or the other. It's just about, I don't know, almost, it might be 100 years late, but it will get there. So that's a lovely story. Then there's wooden fish trap stakes, and we were very privileged to work with another group that kind of doesn't really exist anymore, Citizen. We worked with them a couple of years ago, and they dealt with all of the fish traps, and they've done amazing work. There's a published article about everything you could possibly know about fish trap stakes, and that's really good because it's really hard to find them sometimes. You can see they're little tiny sticks, and sometimes you think, where are they? But once you see one, then you line your eye up and you can see in the glint of the sun on the water, and then you can see the lines of them, and they're quite stunning. Very architect. They might be poetic even. I can feel an archeo play coming on already.
There are fish traps found on swimsuits.
Excellent. We'll talk. Finally, there's the individual artifacts that wash up or are exposed. So these can range from broken, sometimes intact bottles. We have large timbers from wrecks further out to sea that wash up. Remember, the Goodwin Sands are not too far away, which is both good and a complicating factor in what we're going to find. And we also have even had a very large and historically significant rudder wash up on the beach, a 3-meter long rudder, and it did wash up. So yeah, it's amazing what you can find there. We also get a lot of ordnance that's exposed on the beach. Now, we're not allowed to excavate, but in the process of making the beach safe, the Coast Guard often creates lovely large craters, and then we find even more stuff. So all those finds that we encounter on the beach are recorded and reported to as according to UK law, and we usually leave them in situ. However, we have recovered a couple of significant items for teaching purposes. Also, because of the process of working with the community, sometimes things are saved for me. And I'm technically the proud owner of a 3-meter long ship's frame, which is still in Kent. I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to do with that, but it was very generous of the community to save it for me. Something a little bit more manageable is this Westerwald mug. I will point out I did report the frame. It's all above board. The receiver rec knows that it's there. So let's go back to the wrecks again. Here's just a selection of some of the 11 wooden wrecks that are on Sandwich Beach. Now, I should deal with a bit of terminology here. I think we're all professionals here, and probably we're all nitpickers. They're not all wrecks. Some of them are hulks. Most of them are hulks, actually. You can see that they're all kind of ovoid. They've just sat there. Most of them have their bows facing into the shore. They've kind of just been left there to disintegrate. But when we're dealing with the community, we need to kind of talk the right language. Wooden wrecks runs off the tongue a little bit better. It's a little bit more relatable. So we're just going to continue with the wrecks. And if you want to keep talking about hulks and wrecks debate, I'm happy to do that at lunchtime afterwards. I'm actually genuinely happy to talk about this afterwards. Now, I've been working on this site for quite a while, and I still feel like a terrible mother sometimes who can't tell the difference between all of her beloved children / shipwrecks. So don't worry if they all look the same to you. Thankfully, I get to work with some really amazing people, and one of the long-term volunteers at this site is Paul Harwood. He is a bit of a Google whiz, a boffin, and he just overnight whipped up this fantastic geolocated map for me so that I wouldn't get lost on the beach. This was several years ago. I'm a lot better now, but feel free to scan the QR code and follow along. It does work all around the UK, so you are allowed to use it for your own sites. That's the whole purpose that Paul created it for. But we regularly use this map just for Sandwich Bay, and it can remind us where we are on the beach if we get a bit confused, because it is a very, very large beach and sometimes you can't quite work out where you are. And also we can find out if a ship, a wreck, is no longer there. It's like, I'm sure I left it here. Where is it? And it's been buried by the sands. So all of the SB numbers, all the circles with SB numbers, they're the wrecks. The yellow dots are the fish traps. When Citizen actually plotted out all of the fish traps, they make a lot more sense. They're kind of in nice little kind of lines and arrows to catch the fish. It makes a lot more sense. The blue triangles are the reported losses. We have tried to wade out to some of them to find out if there's anything there, but health and safety got in the way, and I aborted when I started doing a bit of moonwalking in the water and couldn't touch the ground anymore. We also have the red squares, and this is a new development in our app map. It means that people can now actually contribute to the map. Before, it was just a very passive, where are you? And now people can actually upload their photographs. They can do monitoring themselves. And that's something where we've taken just walking on a beach to, as a very hands-on, low-tech version to a bit of a more high-tech version of how people are interacting with the wrecks. Unsurprisingly, a question I'm commonly asked is, how old is it? And despite our best efforts, I don't know, and it's really annoying. So we've done lots and lots of recording, and most of it low tech, as I said, although we've done lots of kind of total station work and things like that. We've done lots of photogrammetry, but none of that has helped us work out how old these wrecks are. I mean, lots of people say that there's a Roman wreck out there. It's a Roman galley, I'm sure. Or there's the Portuguese wreck out there. Pretty sure that's not these. I reckon I would put money on the fact that none of them are more than 500 years old. I wouldn't want to say any more than that. But it's annoying to not know how old these wrecks are because I get asked this question a lot. So in 2023, we were very privileged to get money from Historic England. Thank you, Historic England, if you're still in the room. And we got the great Nigel Nailing to trek all the way from the other side of the country. He travelled for 2 days to get to Sandwich Bay. I mentioned the sand levels before. I'm great with tides. We have a fantastic program. I can predict the tides to 5 centimetre accuracy and 5-minute accuracy. It's very handy. Sand levels, he arrived 2 days travelling, remember? The sand levels were high. We took timber samples and they were all worm-eaten. They were all rubbish. I actually cried. It was terrible. So sorry, it was still worth it. Historic England, thank you for your money. But we have not been able to get any conclusive results yet. So we need to excavate to get more decent timber because the timber's down there. We just weren't allowed to dig. We got 9 lots of permissions to cut. We got brand new chainsaws, environmentally friendly chainsaws, but we weren't allowed to dig. So another lot of permits and wait for the sands to decrease, which we could do. So can you believe that this is the same shipwreck? So the sand levels changed so much, and you can see by the dates there, it changes quite rapidly sometimes. So this is wreck number 11. When we first started working on the site, it was no more than 2 blips on the sand, suggesting that there was a forward and an aft section of a boat. By 2002, suddenly it started to appear. We still weren't really doing that much traveling, so I just got sent tantalizing photos or Facebook posts. By 2004, we established where the deck was. There was the windlass. There was a hatch for where the cargo went down. There was a hawser. It was amazing. Turns out we'd actually cut off part of the mast as timber sampling. We did know that the mast was there earlier, but it was fast-growing timber, so it couldn't tell us anything. Very annoying. But you can see that things change really quickly, and so the ship has now started to deteriorate. The winch on the front is no longer there. The mast is disintegrating, so we need to work really quickly. And we're not short of people to do all of this work. There is an incredible amount of interest in the heritage of this beach. Sandwich is a very popular place for dog walkers, bait diggers, fishermen, metal detectorists, beachcombers, and there's the occasional horse rider there as well. There are many people who like to take souvenirs home from this beach, and there are others who like to collect items from the beach thinking that they're saving them, and then they do share their finds on one of the 5 Facebook groups devoted to this beach. I told you it was popular. 5 Facebook groups. They're all different themes for, different interests. So all these people, most of these people have the best of intentions, and lots of them share these finds. Quite a lot of them say, I found this, what is it? That's not helpful, but then lots of people contribute. But Facebook, you've got to trawl through there's no kind of continuity, there's no searchable. I'm looking at Brandon for database inspiration here. Anyway, we need a database rather than a Facebook page. So people are out there, they're interested, but they're just not working together in the kind of the right effective way. But I'll just give you a couple of examples of 2 of the locals that are doing really great work, and they're showing how you can do it both in a low-tech and a high-tech way at the same time. So nothing beats good old-fashioned beach walking for finding coastal heritage. Tony Ovenden on the left there, he's a local councillor, and he's been working on this site for years, also working with the Ramsgate Maritime Museum. And you can also see the other gentleman who's behind the bar. That is Ian Goodman. Both of these gentlemen you can often see off in the distance walking along the beach, finding that they've just got this sense of where everything is on the beach. They make the most amazing finds. Tony Ovenden is really great. He's the one that's gradually returning the B-17 to its eventual museum and aircraft museum. And he also collects other things, as you can see there. And he has a great collection both at his home and also at the local aircraft museum. In Goodban happens to have his own museum because he runs a pub. So he just puts it in his pub and everyone's allowed in. So that's really very great for him. But they also share their findings on Facebook, and they do actually know what they're talking about. So they're not usually asking questions. They're usually the ones helping and providing information. So that's really great. But as we said before, Facebook's not very intuitive for being able to then compare what people have found and make any sense of the site formation processes and bringing the site to life to make it sense to other people. One of the ways that we have been trying to engage with the locals is to get them involved through regular low tide walks. They're free and very well advertised, and you just have to be determined to come because they're usually at dawn, as I said, low tide. They usually take place in the rain, only occasionally in the hail and rarely in the sunshine. But the allure of this coastal heritage is so strong that people do come. And our record is 60 people on the beach. We've been averaging 50 over the summer. We had a low tide walk on Saturday, and that had 20 people apparently. So as I said earlier, there's lots of people that use the beach, but they don't have a great understanding of the tide. So we have these people turn up saying, oh, I regularly walk my dog along the beach, but I've never seen anything. I didn't know these wrecks were here. So there's a bit of ocean literacy that we need to teach them about, tides. You've got to get the right time. Obviously, dogs don't like to get up and walk at dawn for some reason, something like that. So I'm really excited that these beach walks have become so popular. Now, when you have 50 people turn up to a walk, it's worth the 400-mile round trip for me to run it. I have done it and one person turned up. That was a little disheartening, I will say. However, I really enjoy doing these walks, and I get a real buzz from taking these people round to show them all of the heritage that's their heritage. I'm not even from this country, and I still have to drive 400 miles. I'm a bit of an interloper here, but I'm really pleased to say that the locals in the last 6 months, they are running the walks. I don't have to drive 400 miles to do it. So on Saturday we had, too far. On Saturday, poor Sarah cut half of her off. Sarah in the high-vis vest, she is a local artist. She's actually been doing work with us since 2018. And now she's got the confidence, after doing enough walks with me, to actually run the walk herself. We've given her a high-vis vest. We've given her throw rope, and she's got her own stick there. And you can see that she's actually got a little booklet that we've made up for her and for others to use to do a walk. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's a little red line. That's the track that we take to make sure that everyone gets to see all of the wrecks, go out far, and then come back as the tide comes in. So we can do a circular walk within an hour and a half, and people are back at their cars ready to go and have some biscuits and tea if we are running that, because it's very important to recover after an invigorating walk. And with the little books, we have little cheat notes about the history and the health and safety as well. So we're empowering the locals to actually share the information with their fellow colleagues, and that's how we're bringing the heritage to life. It's all very low tech at this point. It's all printed and just being there physically. So it means that only a certain amount of people, admittedly 50 people at a time sometimes, but it's still only a certain amount of people that can access this heritage, and we can share it with such a wider variety of people if we put our minds to it. So what do we have? I've been listening to Tarek's presentation, and we need to do some co-creation. So we've got the problem. What's the problem? The problem is a significant coastal heritage that's being threatened by environmental factors. We have interested locals that just need a little bit more guidance to work together rather than working as individuals. And we have fantastic existing logistical structures to support community projects. It's great to just have really easy accommodation, a classroom, a place that we can go with our muddy boots and no one minds, and we can do our paperwork afterwards, and there's bacon sandwiches ready for us after we've come from a walk. It's fantastic. So that's a great problem and opportunities to have. So what are we going to do about it? We need to have an independent community group to direct activities that record and promote Sandwich Bay coastal heritage. I don't mind driving 400 miles. Sandwich is that good. But if other people can do kind of the day-to-day work and then just invite me for the fun stuff, like what we're going to do soon, then that would be really great. It needs to be the locals doing the heritage for themselves. And so what would they do? Well, we need to maintain the hands-on and the high-tech for both aspects. We're going to apply for funding, and it stipulates that the community group must determine their own activities. So I've got a pretty good understanding, after working here since 2018, I've got a pretty good understanding of what needs to be done and also what everyone's been telling me they would like to do. So while it is co-creation, I kind of can write it already, but obviously they can make their own decisions up as things progress. So what we can do hands-on and high-tech. We can do hands-on as the staple because it's going to be cheap, it's going to be accessible. So that's going out with tape measures, it's going out with your phones, just recording things, doing lots of beach monitoring, just walking. It's really easy for everyone to do. As long as you know the right time to go, it's super easy to record things. And as long as you have the right clothing on, you cannot complain about the weather because it's England. That's how it works. So we can monitor sand levels, we can record oral histories, we can create travelling exhibitions, do physical records, and still do those low tide walks. At some point, the low tide walks are going to peak in interest, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. We've got beachside signage that can be done. This is all reasonably standard stuff, nothing particularly innovative there. So quite easy to kind of achieve. Everyone can learn how to do that. And then we can excavate a wreck, and a bit more about that in a second. The next things that we can do is more high tech. We can do drone surveys, geophysical surveys. We can take the low tide walks and move them into using the monitoring app, making them a bit more high tech. And then we can do exciting things like augmented reality ships on the beach, virtual reality, and then do some artifact conservation and websites. So we can have both of those things working together. So we need to have locals trained to monitor coastal changes. The number of times I get messages sent to me saying, the sand levels are really low or something really amazing is washed up. It's like, I can't do anything about it. It's your heritage. I'm trying to teach you. So we need to get them a little bit more confident so that they can actually react and do something of consequence when things like the environment cause things to be exposed. We also need a research team because there's lots of archives out there. It's the Goodwin Sands. There's lots of shipwrecks out there. We have 11 wooden shipwrecks. We just need to know which of the 11 wooden shipwrecks in the archives they correspond to. So we need a bit more information about that. We've got the Deal Museum and Archives. We've got Sandwich Museum. They've all been really supportive so far, but we haven't really delved into it as logically as we could. So there's that aspect as well. And we can do even more public walks to drum up more interest, to kind of tie in with wellness walks. Everyone seems to be interested in that, and to do regular monitoring of the heritage and the sediment levels on the site, because the sediment levels will help us work out when we can do more invasive work, like digging to get dendro sampling done. So it's a very protected site. It's like a Ramsar site. It's a bird sanctuary. It's an SSSI. It's got so many levels of permits that, I think I say it was 9 permits I needed to get to do the dendro sampling last time. And that's fine. I'm happy to do that because we've got to make sure that we look after the environment as well as the heritage. But it's a bit of paperwork to do. So community don't really want to have to do that. But we need to do more dendrochronology testing on timbers that are good quality. Here you can see us chopping off part of the mast of the shipwreck that we want to excavate. And we want to excavate because that's the only way we're going to learn more about these shipwrecks. Now, some of them are too far out. It would be almost just an underwater excavation, but there are 2 of them that are high enough up on the beach where we could actually do a really good excavation project. And it's happened before, just around the corner. This is not Sandwich, this is Tankerton. It's just around the corner, and they did a great project. Wessex Archaeology and Historic England did the excavation. And, there's a few challenges, seeing as you have to excavate a site that floods twice a day. But, it's been done before, so we can manage it. So these are the 2 wrecks we want to excavate, number 12 and number 12 and number 11. I can tell the difference between these 2. So this one is very exciting. It's got amazing preserved timbers. You can't tell because it's in a pool of water, so pumps would be required. So it's going to be low-tech digging, very hands-on, very popular. It's going to really attract lots of popular attention, get the community really involved. But it's going to have to be really high-tech to cope with all of the permits that are needed and keeping the environment safe. No JCBs on this site. That's not going to work at all. But once we've got that information, once we've excavated the wrecks, and I will say excavate and then record, do the sampling, and then keep on site. We're not going to be doing the Mary Rose of Kent, nothing like that. We don't have enough money for that. So once we have all that detailed information about the construction, we can do all sorts of amazing things. Lots of high-tech ways of sharing the information and bringing this site to life. So here we have the Shipwreck 11. And this is not Shipwreck 11. You can see that there's been amazing digital reconstructions done, virtual reality experiences. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're working with Portsmouth and the Heritage Hub. And I'm really looking forward to the tour on Monday of the labs that we have here, because once you have some information about these shipwrecks, this vessel here, we know where the deck is. So we can absolutely reconstruct the entire vessel. I can't, but some clever university student will be able to do it overnight. And then we will be able to have this amazing augmented reality experience. You can actually see Shipwreck 11 from the car park. So even on a horrible day, you could see the shipwreck. You could sit in your car going, I'm not good out there. I can't even open the door from the wind. And you could just pop your phone and go, oh, that's what it used to look like. It's fantastic. Or the wind dies down, you can actually walk along the beach. You can walk around it and actually experience what the ship looked like before it looked like this, which it looks even worse than this now. So we're not going to be able to preserve or save any of these vessels except virtually and digitally. So let's do what we can, and then maybe we'll be able to have an experience like this. And we can do this with probably 2 other vessels. There, you won't be able to see them from the car park. You will actually have to go and walk out, but there's a couple of vessels that are actually wrecks and they're on their side. So we've got the kind of the top and the bottom and the whole side of a vessel, and we'll be able to do all sorts of fancy things with that. So how are we going to do this? We already got a number of official stakeholders on board for a National Lottery Heritage Fund application. I've almost finished the application. Hopefully I will by the end of the year. So we're in the process of finalising that. So hopefully next conference, we'll have some positive news of receiving the funding and getting the project started. As you can see, Sandwich Bay is a remarkable place, both for the heritage and the environment and the people who use it. Currently, the heritage is threatened by environmental factors. We can't do anything about that. It's being threatened by human factors. We can help that through community engagement and educating them about the best way to look after their heritage, because most of them have the best intentions in mind. The creation of this community group, eventually they'll be self-determined. They'll be able to just run and go on with their lives. We'll help them for 3 years of the funding, and then after that, hopefully they'll be able to do it on their own. They'll be able to work out what they want to do for coastal heritage and looking after their own heritage there. There's no way to physically preserve the wrecks, as I said, or the fish traps or the plane, but we can do lots of really great digital and virtual work. But it's still going to need the hands-on aspect. It's still going to need the people walking up and down the beach. You can't beat a good beach walk, even if the wreck you look at gets a little bit less every time you go there, which is sad. But as Suzanne was saying, that's part of its life. And I reckon there's more than 11 wrecks out there. The last time I gave this presentation, I had to change this presentation from saying 10 to 11 because we found another wreck 3 months ago. So there's more out there. And we might even find the Roman wreck. Who knows? So we're going to use a whole range of different techniques from hands-on and high-tech methods to help get the community to share their heritage, to learn more about their heritage, and to bring this site to life. I hope that some of you might have been interested in being part of this. So that's the app there if you want to follow along. I've also got lots more information down on the education desk. So if you want to sign up to be involved or just to keep in touch with what we're doing, it is going to be a funded project. So we'll be able to give you free opportunities. Yes. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you can love Sandwich as much as I do.
Have we got one quick question?
Yeah, last time we were on the beach walk in August, back in the Sandwich Festival, and there was a Coast Guard team on 317 looking for some reported ordnance. Did they actually find it again or not?
Well, yes, because I showed them where it was. They couldn't find it till I pointed it out to them because I was there the day before. Yeah, it was in a pool of water and they hadn't brought their wellies. So yes, they did find it. And they've been back several times since then. Almost every day there's ordnance being brought up.